The papers were spread across the kitchen table the morning he left. Divorce documents, already filled out, already signed on his side, pushed toward me like they were nothing more than a grocery list. I stood there in the same kitchen where I had made breakfast for 11 years, where I had helped our daughter with homework at that table, where I had believed, completely and without question, that I was safe. He didn't look at me when he said it. The house is already transferred. My lawyer handled it last month. I didn't understand at first. I asked him to repeat it. I transferred the house. To my brother. It's done. The house we had bought together. The house with my daughter's growth marks penciled on the kitchen door frame. The house I had painted every room of with my own hands over 3 summers. Gone. Transferred. Done. I sat down slowly because my legs stopped working. He picked up his keys and walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft, ordinary click, the kind of sound that has no idea it is ending something. I sat at that table for a long time, long enough for the coffee to go cold, long enough to understand that what had just happened was not an accident. This had been planned, carefully, quietly, over months, maybe longer, while I was right there, trusting him completely. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that he had made one mistake, and the court was about to find it. My name is Maya, and I was, for most of my adult life, the kind of woman who believed that if you loved someone quietly and completely, it would be enough. I met Daniel when I was 26. He was charming in the way that some people are, the kind of charm that feels like warmth until you've known it long enough to understand it's actually performance. But I didn't know that then. I only knew that he made me feel chosen. And for someone who had spent most of her childhood feeling invisible, that meant everything. I grew up the middle child in a family where attention was scarce. My older sister was the achiever. My younger brother was the baby. I was the quiet one, the one who managed, who adjusted, who didn't ask for much because asking felt like too much trouble. I learned early to make myself small so there would be enough room for everyone else. By the time I married Daniel, making myself small was something I did without thinking. I gave up a marketing job I loved when our daughter Lily was born because he said it made more sense. I managed the house, the school schedules, the doctor's appointments, the holidays, the birthdays, all of it, while he built his business. I didn't resent it. I believed we were building something together. I believed that what I contributed mattered, even when it wasn't visible, even when it wasn't mentioned. I remember one anniversary dinner, our 8th, when he spent most of the meal on his phone. When I mentioned it quietly on the drive home, he told me I was being sensitive, that I always made things harder than they needed to be. I apologized before we got out of the car. I apologized for asking him to be present at our anniversary dinner. That was the pattern, and I was so inside it, I couldn't see it. But I was about to find out how wrong I had been to stay quiet for so long. The divorce itself didn't surprise me completely. We had been distant for 2 years. 2 years of separate rooms, of conversations that went nowhere, of a silence that had grown so familiar it almost felt normal. When he sat me down in February and said he wanted to end the marriage, I was sad, but I wasn't shocked. What came next, that shocked me. His lawyer contacted my lawyer within days. The speed of it should have told me something. This had not been a decision made in February. This had been in motion for much longer. The house, our home, had been transferred to his brother Marcus in November, 3 months before he told me he wanted a divorce, at a price of $1. A legal transfer, properly filed, perfectly timed to remove it from any divorce settlement before proceedings began. The savings account we shared had been steadily drained over 18 months. Small withdrawals, never large enough to alarm me, moved systematically into an account I didn't know existed. By the time I looked, there was less than $300 remaining in an account that had once held our emergency fund, our vacation savings, our daughter's future. He had also contacted my mother 6 months before the divorce. I found this out from my aunt, accidentally, 3 weeks after he left. He had told my mother that I had been struggling, emotionally, mentally, and that he was worried about me. He had planted that seed carefully, quietly, so that when the divorce came, my own family would already have questions about my stability. He had thought of everything. 11 years. I had given 11 years, my career, my independence, my confidence, my voice, and he had spent at least 2 of them dismantling every protection I had, so that when he finally left, I would have nothing left to stand on. I sat with that knowledge for a long time. I let it be as heavy as it was. And then I called an attorney, not the one he expected me to call, a different one who specialized in exactly this kind of case. And she told me something that changed everything. My attorney's name was Rachel. She was calm and precise, and she listened to everything I said without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Tell me about the business." Daniel's business, a logistics company he had built over the last 7 years. I knew it was successful. I knew it generated income. What I did not know, what I had never thought to ask, was exactly how successful it was and where that success was being held. Rachel filed for full financial disclosure. It took 6 weeks. Daniel's attorneys pushed back twice. Rachel pushed harder. When the documents came, I sat in her office while she walked me through them, page by page, number by number. There was an offshore account, opened 4 years ago, funded consistently, quarterly deposits always just under the threshold that would trigger automatic reporting. The total held in that account at the time of disclosure was $840,000. I stared at that number for a long time. $840,000. Hidden. While I was living carefully, managing a household budget, telling Lily we couldn't afford a school trip, apologizing to myself for asking too much. Rachel set the papers down. "This changes the settlement significantly," she said. "How significantly?" I asked. She looked at me directly. "Significantly enough that the house transfer to his brother Marcus will likely be reversed by the court. A transfer at $1, timed 3 months before divorce proceedings, with evidence of hidden assets. Judges do not look kindly on this." I didn't cry. I had done my crying already at that kitchen table with cold coffee. I simply nodded and said, "What do we do next?" And what came next was something Daniel had never once considered possible. The court hearing was not dramatic in the way I had imagined. There were no raised voices, no breaking moments, just a courtroom, 2 tables, and the specific silence of a room where documents tell the truth when people won't. Daniel sat across from me with his attorney. He didn't look at me directly, not once in the entire 2 hours. He looked at the table. He looked at his lawyer. He looked at the judge. He looked everywhere except at the woman he had spent 2 years methodically dismantling. The judge reviewed the financial disclosures. She reviewed the transfer documents. She reviewed the timeline, the offshore account, the marital asset drainage, the house transfer at $1 3 months before proceedings. She was not warm about it. She described the asset concealment as deliberate and premeditated. She described the house transfer as an attempt to defraud the marital estate. She ordered the transfer reversed. She ordered full disclosure of the offshore account and its inclusion in the settlement calculation. His brother Marcus, who had attended and sat in the back of the room, left before the hearing ended. Outside the courtroom, Daniel's attorney spoke quietly to him for a long time. Daniel stood very still. He looked smaller than I remembered. I walked over, not to hurt him, not to win something, just because there was one thing I needed to say. "I spent 11 years making myself smaller so you could feel bigger," I said. "I hope whatever you were building was worth it." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I walked away, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, my steps felt completely like my own. The settlement took 4 months to finalize. The house transfer was legally reversed. The The offshore account was factored into the marital estate. My final settlement included the house, a structured payment from the hidden assets, and child support calculated on his actual income, not the reduced figure his original filings had claimed. I also received something the court couldn't order, but that mattered more than any number. My mother called me 3 weeks after the hearing. She had heard from my aunt what Daniel had said to her, the quiet campaign to make her question my stability before the divorce. She called to apologize. She cried. I let her, and then I told her I was okay, that I was more okay than I had been in years. Lily and I stayed in the house. I repainted her room the color she chose, a soft sage green she had been asking for since she was 8. We ordered pizza and painted until midnight and laughed more than we had in a very long time. I went back to marketing, part-time at first, then full-time within 8 months. My skills had not gone anywhere. They had just been waiting. What I have now, my name on the deed, my daughter in her green room, my own income, my own voice, no transfer document can touch that. No offshore account can buy it back. It was always mine. I just had to stop apologizing for it. There is a particular kind of courage in staying calm when everything around you is designed to make you fall apart, in doing the quiet work, in finding the one person who says, "Tell me about the business," and trusting her enough to let her look. Not every betrayal announces itself. Some of them are built slowly, carefully, in the spaces where you were too busy loving someone to notice. But the truth has a way of surviving, especially when someone finally goes looking for it. If you have ever signed something you didn't fully understand, trusted someone who is quietly making plans against you, or made yourself small for someone who never deserved that sacrifice, this story was for you. Drop a heart if you believe that quiet strength is still strength. Comment below. Have you ever discovered something that changed how you saw your entire relationship? Tell me. I read every single one. Subscribe, because every week we tell the stories of women who were underestimated, and every week we show what happened when they finally stopped being quiet about it. Because the most dangerous thing you can do to a woman who has been silenced is give her access to the truth.